In the 1980s, Belka had substantially increased its military budget in order to facilitate several experimental projects, such as the Excalibur, a DFX-1 and 02 aircraft, as well as the XB-0 Resfogar. However, this increased spending would lead to a sharp economic downturn and recession. To attempt to remedy the crisis, Belka would undergo the 1987 federal law review that would allow portions of its territory to secede and form the independent nations of Jebet, Rekta, and Ustio. In 1991, Ozia and Belka jointly formed the 5 Great Lakes Development Corporation Business Group to jointly mine resources in the Great Lakes region. However, the venture soon went bankrupt after it was discovered that Ozia had underfunded the company and fabricated financial forecasts. The scandal would foment a large amount of anti-Ozine sentiment within Belka and would lead to the rise of the Democratic Liberal Party. The new government would facilitate a large military buildup and would adopt an ultranationalist stance. Tensions between the independent territories grew, causing border skirmishes between Belka and Ustio. They grew further when the Supreme Court of Belka ruled that the federal law review was unconstitutional and that the independence of the territories formerly owned by Belka was invalid. Ustio, Jebet, and Rekta dismissed the ruling as illegal. In March of 1995, Belka discovered a large reserve of natural resources and minerals in a region along Ustio's southern border denominated as Area B7R. Believing it would resolve the economic crisis, Waldemar Rald, leader of the Belkan government, declared war on Ozia and the independent territories. The Belkan military launched a massive assault spearheaded by the Belkan Air Force. The first battle of the Warsaw Indigo Squadron engage and destroy the Fado 122nd Tactical Fighter Squadron. 2 days later, the city of Model near the Jebet-Belkan border was taken by Belkan troops. A week into the war, much of Ustio had fallen after a major battle in Monte Rosa between the Belkan and Ustio air forces saw Ustio suffer major losses on March 30. Various regions of eastern Ozia likewise came under attack, including the cities of Rutherford, Higher Lark, and Wesson. The Belkan army reached as far as North Sapin, where the regions of Arlen and Futuro Canal were used as supply routes. The Kingdom of Sapin attempted to resist the invasion but took heavy losses, including its 3rd Naval Fleet at the hands of the Belkan Air Force. On the Ustio front after the battle, at Monte Rosa, Ustio's military had been greatly weakened, causing them to retreat to Fillet Air Base in the eastern Tiran Mountains near the Rektan border. In order to replenish its forces, its commanders were forced to hire foreign mercenaries. As a result, the 6th Air Division, which had previously been destroyed, was rebuilt as a mercenary unit. On April 1, Ozia approached Ustio with the intention of establishing a military alliance dubbed the Allied Forces, agreeing to aid each other under the terms of a non-aggression treaty. The following day, the Belkan Air Force launched a raid on Fillet Air Base with various mercenary and Air Force pilots, scrambling to intercept. Ustio High Command paired one such pilot, Cyber, with Larry Solo Wing Pixie, Volk to form the 66th Air Force Unit Gaum, which successfully repelled the raid. 2 weeks later, Gaum team would help recapture Arlen's Route 171, a highway Belka used to transport troops and supplies. On April 3, 2 days after the formation of the Allied forces, Ozia launched a counterattack on Belkan occupation forces within Ozia. That same month, Ozia put Offensive Campaign No. 4101 into motion with Gaum team being sent on a reconnaissance mission into Area B7R in order to distract the Belkan military while the Ozine 3rd Naval Fleet got in position to attack Futuro Canal. 4 days later, the operation to take the Futuro Canal began. The mission was split into 3 main operations and led to the destruction of the majority of the Belkan forces occupying it, including the Belkan carrier Nord. When the canal was cleared, the 3rd Fleet endured intense aerial attacks from the Belkan Air Force as it moved toward Ustio. Reinforced by the arrival of the 3rd Fleet, the joint Ozine-Ustio forces continued their campaign against the Belkan army as they pushed south to liberate the Ustio capital city Directus. On May 12, Gaum team assisted the Ozine 122nd Airborne Division in retaking the mountain town of Solis Ortis to establish a forward base in anticipation of the operation. On the evening of the next day, aircraft and armored battalions besieged the city as Operation Constantine commenced. With the aid of Cypher and Pixie, the Allied forces were able to defeat most of the occupation troops inside the city, leading to anti-Belkan riots throughout the city. As the city fell, the Belkan general in charge of the occupation attempted to flee on a helicopter, but was killed. As fighting throughout the city came to an end as the Allied forces retook the city, the Belkan Air Force Gelb Squadron, which had been overtaxed by being sent on constant combat missions, arrived to repel the offensive, but they arrived too late to make a difference. They were subsequently shot down by Gaum team over the city as the battle ended. With the capital now liberated, life within Ustio largely returned to its pre-war ways as the military joined Ozia in its efforts against the Belkan Federation. After the liberation of Ustio and Sapin, the Allies turned their attention to Belka itself as they prepared an invasion. The Allies also discovered the existence of the Belkan nuclear program and the V2. On May 17, they would launch an offensive in order to breach the Hydrian Line, the first line of defense, protecting Belka. The battle spanned over much of the 700-kilometer-long line, including the Gladysand border region, under the guise of a nuclear arms inspection. Many of the mountain bases and fortresses in the area were destroyed by Allied airstrikes, and the Hydrian Line fell. However, no nuclear weapons were found. During the siege, the Belkan military utilized the Excalibur laser system against the Allies, which annihilated an entire squadron of Ustio aircraft. On May 19, the Allies began an assault on the 2nd Belkan line of defense at the Skane Plains. The mission, dubbed Operation Dynamo, saw the Allied forces attack 2 air bases and secure air superiority over the area in order to allow air transports to land at the bases and secure them. While the operation was successful, the transport planes and many other Allied aircraft were destroyed by Excalibur. After the losses from Operation Dynamo, the Allies launched Operation Judgment to attack the Tauberg region and destroy Excalibur on May 23. Galm Team and Crow Team attacked the defenses around Excalibur as well as its optical dome before the weapon was split in half by Cypher. After the fall of the King's Sword, Allied commanders expressed their gratitude towards Galm Team, and Cypher's reputation was greatly increased. Following the destruction of Excalibur, Ozia withdrew from the Assembly of Nations Non-Aggression Treaty, and on May 28 launched a surprise attack on the Belkan Air Force units garrisoning Area B7R. This would lead to the largest air battle of the war, which would result in over 100 aircraft being shot down. Despite their initial advantage, Ozia would suffer heavy losses as the ambush devolved into a massive dogfight. The situation prompted Valais Air Base to scramble Galm Team, who arrived at 12 p.m. At which point Ozia had lost nearly 40% of its aircraft. Galm Team joined the battle and downed several aircraft. This would turn the tide back in the Allies' favor and allow them to secure air superiority over Area B7R. At the same time, a Belkan deserter named Wolfgang Buckner flew through Area B7R in order to escape the Belkan Schwartz Squadron, the Belkan Air Force's deserter killers. Dominik Zubov, Schwartz squadron leader, ordered his squadron to kill Galm Team, who shot them down in combat. Cypher's actions that day would lead to him being nicknamed the Demon Lord of the Round Table. As South Belka fell to the Allied forces, the Belkan army retreated to Nord Belka and the Waldreek Mountains that served as the border between North and South Belka. The cities in the south, which had been used as part of Belkan defensive lines, had grown weary of the fighting and began declaring themselves demilitarized and surrendering to the Allied forces. North and Central Belka, however, had become radicalized by the Allied forces attacking them. This would cause the Allies to switch to a strategic bombing campaign to attack Belkan arms factories. On June 1, one such bombing raid occurred against the city of Hoffnung. The attack, which had started as a targeted strike against the local arms factories, quickly devolved into a saturation attack against the city itself, claiming the lives of soldiers and civilians alike. On June 5, the Allies launched an offensive against the Belkan troops at the Waldreek Mountains as well as prepared to take Sudentur, the last major city in the south still under Belkan control. On June 6, Belka sent a squadron of bombers armed with nuclear weapons toward Ustio. Galm and Crow Team, who were on their way to Sudentur, were rerouted to intercept the bombers. With the aid of Belkan separatists who also wished to stop the nuclear attack, they were successful. However, the Belkan army successfully detonated 7 nuclear warheads across the Waldreek Mountains, which killed over 12,000 people and plunged the region into chaos. The attack caused the Allies to cease their advance into North Belka. Contact was quickly established with the Belkan government, and terms for Belka's surrender were successfully negotiated. Days later, the government underwent changes, and the Belkan military was ordered to cease all fighting in anticipation of the surrender. The majority of the military would follow this command. However, a more fanatical faction refused to lay down their arms and instead took up positions on Mount Sherm. On June 13, the reformed Galm Team, now consisting of Cypher and Patrick James Beckett, attacked and destroyed the remnant forces. During the attack, Galm Team would spot a massive vacant domed hangar near the airfield at the base of the mountain. The capitulation took place on the evening of June 19, 1995, in a ceremony in the South Belkan city of Lumen. At the same time of the ceremony, mercenaries from Ozia and Ustio, including Galm Team, were sent to destroy a rebel force in Nord Belka in the coastal town of Anfang near Dinsmark. The ceremony was televised all across the world. It would greatly favor the Allies, with Ozia annexing South Belka. However, Waldemar was able to retain his position in the government of the newly created Principality of Belka.